Do you own a seven-figure practice? You've probably heard me talk a lot about the Seven Figure Practice Club recently. This is a new, amazing program where we are getting together seven-figure practice owners together in a small group of 12 to work together for a year. There's so many things that seven-figure practice owners deal with that they don't have a community to ask questions, learn, and grow from. If you want to apply to be in the Seven Figure Practice Club, head on over to practiceofthepractice.com/club. There, you're going to be able to read all about what the program entails. We're going to be covering all sorts of things in our monthly meetings. We're meeting twice a month. The first meeting is 90 minutes, and we're going to have three 25-minute hot seats for you to dig in and to get questions answered and also to help other seven-figure practice owners. The second meeting of the month is going to be one of our practice owners presenting on something they are knocking out of the park. And it's a chance to really be able to learn, teach, grow from each other in a way that you really don't find anywhere else in the marketplace. Also, in person meetings are so important. And that's why twice a year, we're going to connect once here in Traverse City, Michigan, and then another time somewhere else, yet to be determined. And we're going to connect, we're going to hang out, we're going to talk private practice, but we're also going to have a lot of fun. So if you want to apply for the Seven Figure Practice Club, head on over to practiceofthepractice.com/club and fill out your application today. This is the Practice of the Practice podcast with Joe Sanok, session number 939. I'm Joe Sanok, your host, and welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast. It is late December, and we are wrapping up the year with our seven-figure practice series. We have covered some ground, folks, since, let's see, our very first one aired on December 6th. So if you missed that, we talked about how to position yourself right now, whether or not you're a seven-figure practice owner, to get to seven figures. We talked about leadership teams. We talked about how Kaylee went from being homeless to owning a 6,000 square foot wellness space on 40 acres. That was a crazy awesome episode. That was episode 933. We talked about early decisions that made a huge impact. We talked about hiring 10 people in 1 month. That was an amazing episode with Melissa. So many great episodes that we've gone into. We even dove into, we had one person that I snuck in, your most important number with Lee Benson. That was episode 937. He actually isn't a practice owner, but he's this huge author. And he talked about the one number that you need to know. So that aired on December 20th. So all sorts of things going on in this series. And I am so excited about this seven-figure practice club. People started applying for it in early December. The applications are open throughout December and January. And the seven-figure practice club is this brand new membership. Up to 12 people we're taking into the seven-figure practice club. We're meeting twice a month. The first time we meet is a 90-minute meeting. And so we're going to have three 25-minute hot seats. So we're going to dig in. People are going to come with their question and say, here's what I'm thinking about. How would you think through this? What questions would you ask? What do you think through? And what advice do you have? And just getting really focused. Here's what we think you should do from other seven-figure practice owners. So three of those at each month. And then the second time, we have a presentation from one of the members where they're thinking through something they're really doing well and teaching the group. Because, if it's just me teaching, that's just going to be my own limited way of thinking. Whereas if we have the group saying, here's what I'm learning, and then sharing that with each other, there's just an opportunity there. So if the Seven Figure Practice Club sounds interesting to you, you have to be a seven-figure practice. Head on over to practiceofthepractice.com/club. Those applications are open until the end of January 2024. Well, I am so excited to have our guest today. Chantal Hayes is a licensed clinical mental health counselor supervisor in North Carolina, holding a master's degree in counseling psychology from the University of San Francisco. With a foundation in teaching and education, she transitioned to psychotherapy and counseling, specializing in couples, religious trauma, mindfulness, adult neurodivergence, and life transitions. As the visionary executive director of Banyan Tree Counseling, a premier seven-figure mental health facility she founded in 2015, Chantal leads a team of 25 therapists, a registered dietitian, academic consultant, and admin team. Chantal, welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast.
Hey, Joe. It's good to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you here and part of this series. So I want to hear a little bit about when you started your practice. Did you start with knowing that you wanted a group eventually? Did you start it as a solo practice and it grew? Like, what did that look like when you first got started?
Yeah, so I think I always kind of had it in my mind that I wanted to have a group practice. At some point, I just didn't know when, and I didn't know if if it would or ever happen. Um, so yeah, I don't think I really knew. But being in solo practice, it just felt so isolating. I really loved it, but it came to a point after, gosh, I think 5 years in solo practice, 6 years maybe. I just decided, you know what, maybe I should just hire somebody and see how it
Hmm.
goes. And so I kind of just went out on a limb and did a whole bunch of research. Now, I didn't just go out on a limb and just willy nilly do it. I did a ton of research, and um, just really just dove into what does it take to start a group practice. Of
Mm.
course, there's so many unknowns. So in a way, I guess I did go out on a limb and I just went ahead and did it. Hired one person, and I had a lot of support. My husband was super supportive. Um, and it was nice because, I felt like if I failed, I'd be okay. He had a full-time job, and so that was nice to have that security financially. But yeah, hired my first person, and it ended up going really well. She was wonderful. I took a lot of time with her, one on one, and yeah, I mean the rest is history. It just went from there.
Mm. I wanna ask a little bit about before you hired those first people. Were there certain numbers or things that you were thinking through? The reason I ask is oftentimes, a lot of our solo practitioners that are in next level practice, they see that they're filling up or are already full. They're thinking, there's probably a lot of potential here to grow the practice. Should I hire someone? And there's a lot of second guessing and even maybe some ignorance in regards to knowing how to think through the risk, how to think through how many referrals should be coming in, how to think through, should I get a bigger office? Like, what were those things early on when you were first growing that group that were numbers or mindsets that helped you decide, yeah, I really need to hire somebody?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there's just so much to think about. And I think, again, it can be so overwhelming. And I think for me and my kind of personality, I had to, do as much research as I possibly could. I really wanted to be prepared, but I think it got to a point where I was like, I had to just kind of say, okay, I'm really not going to be as prepared as I think I probably should be, which is, I think I probably wanted to be over prepared, I guess, in this realm. But uh, yeah, I think I just I did a lot of research. Like I said, I found some really good mentors online, and just kind of by word of mouth, and had some consultations. That was really helpful. Um, I read a lot of books.
Mm.
I
What were some
listened
of your
to
favorites?
Radical Candor was one of my favorite books that I read, and there were so many, Joe. I can't even. I'll have to, I'll send you a list because I do have a running list of so many books. There was what is the one that is gosh, I read it so long ago. It was the one where um, it's lots of practice owners go use this, and you break up your money into different
Profit
accounts and
first?
profit first. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It's such a simple name. Yes, I loved that method. So I read that book. I used that method in the beginning. I don't necessarily use exactly what
Hmm.
he recommends now, but it was helpful in the beginning.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I tried to set it up as well as I possibly could.
So that jump from solo into hiring your first few people for a lot of folks is a really big jump. I've noticed that it seems like to get a solo practice going, a lot of times you're bootstrapping it. You're wearing a million hats. You're doing the marketing. You're doing the accounting, the bookkeeping. If you're on insurances, you're often doing your own billing. Just so many things that you don't outsource, and you may or may not have done all that stuff, but The next big jump seems to be when you're going from like 10 to 20 clinicians. When you really started to scale, what did that look like? What was challenging during that phase?
Yeah, that's from 10 to 20 that things did shift. It became less of a, um, it felt like, I could really give so much attention to so many different things, and I could give so much of my personal attention to each of the clinicians, to oh crap, I have to start delegating so much better now. So figuring out how to delegate was really important, and what things can I offload, and what things are just kind of over my head at this point. Um, so yeah, learning how to give away some of those things was really helpful.
Mm. Now, as you started to scale to where you're at now, one thing that can get lost is kind of that why you originally started, like why you went into therapy, why you started a group practice, that there's just so many moving parts that kind of the DNA of the practice can sometimes get lost. Like, what did you do to preserve that why, that authenticity, that whole reason you started the practice?
Yeah, I think you wear so many hats, like you said, and um, it's so easy to get lost in the financial part, and yeah, the marketing and the, um, gosh, just there's just so much, that you have to do, the HR. Ugh, there's a million things. So I think just going back um, to what made me want to become a therapist in the first place, because I haven't seen clients now in, I think, gosh, 2 years. And I'm trying to go back to that. I'm trying to see a couple clients again, soon, just to really immerse myself in that just a little bit, again, because I do miss it. But uh, yeah, I think looking at why did I start to become a therapist in the first place? Why did I go to grad school? And really, it's because I wanted to help people. I was an elementary school teacher, before I went to grad school to, become a therapist, and I just saw the need for. I just really wanted to help children, so much more than I could in the classroom. And I think just going back to why I started this, I just want to help people live better lives. I want to help people have fulfilling lives. I mean, life is so hard. I feel like this is really my life mission to um, to just improve the mental well being of people.
Mhm. Going in network with insurance can be tough. I know when I took insurance, there were long wait times and it was so confusing. Filing all the right paperwork is time consuming and tedious. And even after you're done, it can take months to get credentialed and start seeing clients. That's why Alma makes it easy and financially rewarding to accept insurance. When you join their insurance program, you can get credentialed within 45 days and access enhanced reimbursement rates with major payers. They also handle all of the paperwork from eligibility checks to claims submissions and guarantee payment within 2 weeks of each appointment. Once you've joined Alma's insurance program, you can see clients in your state of licensure, regardless of where you're working from. It's amazing to know that you can be fully online. Learn more about building a thriving practice with Alma at helloalma.com/Joe. That's hello, ALMA.com/Joe to get started. Now, if there's seven-figure practice owners listening and, maybe they're like you and they haven't been doing the clinical work, are there any habits that you have or mindsets or things that you do to keep yourself connected to that original why? Because it's one thing if you're still seeing clients and, you've got, 5 or 10 people that you're like, "Oh yeah, this is why I do what I do." But when you're running the business and a lot of it's the logistical or the human resources side or all those things you listed, like what do you do personally to stay connected to that why within the practice?
Well, I think I have to take a step back from the nitty-gritty, frequently, and gosh, I wish I did it better. I'm still working on it. It's a work in progress, but, I think taking, some time for myself, every day to, take a walk, meditate, connecting with my friends, and that really helps me kind of ground myself and recognize, what am I doing well as a leader? Where are my shortcomings? It's a lot of introspection. I think that really looking inward is helpful to help you um, lead this group, because it's a big job. I'm constantly worried about, oh my gosh, are my clinicians happy in their job? Are they feeling fulfilled? Are they helping their clients effectively? What are our outcomes? Are they feeling financially stressed? Themselves. There's so many things. I think a group practice owner weighs on them. A good one, at least. I think that it can be a huge burden. You've got to have some time for yourself, and to step back. I love to travel as well, and that's one thing that helps me, is kind of getting away every 3 months or so, taking a little trip, sometimes a big trip, and distancing myself a little bit. And it helps to know that my business can run without me there every single day.
Hmm.
That's really been a powerful thing for me to
What do
recognize.
you think stepping back and taking trips and getting away from the office does for your leadership inside of the office?
Well, it gives me some distance, and it lets me. I tend to be a little. This is something that I've recognized within myself, is that I tend to be a little over controlling at some times, not in a not in a punitive sense, but I like things the way that I like them, and I think that can be a positive. But I think it can also really trip me up, as a leader, because I have a hard time. I've recognized giving people space to make their own mistakes and to figure things out on their own in a way that works well for them. And I think that's such an important thing to do as a group practice owner. You've got to give people a little bit of space to screw up. And that's okay. And that's, I think, one of the things in my practice that I've really tried to instill is in everyone is, we recognize our mistakes, we celebrate our mistakes. It's okay. And I really try um, to embody that and show everyone. Like, I'll write an email. I just wrote an email out not too long ago, and I was like, guys, I really messed up. I'm so sorry. But it is what it is. We all do it, and I hope that example helps other people do the same. But yeah, stepping back and giving people a chance to do things themselves. And sometimes I come back and I'm like, oh wow, you figured this out way better than I could have.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't stepped back, then I would have realized that. So yeah.
Totally. I think sometimes, I often hear people say, well, no one can do it like I do it. And that's probably true, but there might be people that can do it way better than you can do it also. It takes
Hmm.
training. It takes, sharing, here's what our best practices are, our workflow, or here's why we bill insurance this way or whatever. But oftentimes, yeah, you as the business owner know how to do it initially, but there's people out there that can do whatever the it is way better than you.
Oh my gosh, way better. Yes. And it's funny because I wish that I had recognized this before I went into so many different financial, like, thought I could do my own accounting, and I did my own taxes for the first few years, and I'm like, what was I even thinking? That was so
Oh,
ridiculous.
gosh.
I'm not an accountant.
Yeah.
So yeah.
The first year I worked with an accountant, he's like, you should have switched to be an S corp like years ago. And I think he saved me like 10 or 15 grand the first year. It was like,
Yes.
oh my gosh, like TurboTax
Yes.
Home and Business did not give me that advice.
Right. Yes. Yes. I use Tax Act, I
Oh.
think. Oh gosh. Yep. Yep. But
So when
having a
you
good accountant is important for sure.
Yeah, so when you think about your leadership team and how you kind of transmit the vision you have for the practice, for the culture of the practice, the priorities, the ways you think through things, what are some strategies you use to kind of share that vision with the people that are helping lead the practice with you?
So we have weekly meetings. I think that's helpful. I tend to kind of fly by the seat of my pants sometimes, and I'll say, oh, we need to have a meeting about this. We need to have a meeting about this. But having that leadership meeting weekly really helps ground me and ground the team, so we can make sure that we can save things for our weekly meeting. We don't have to make things, or unless they actually are urgent, but it helps to have that weekly check-in to discuss. And we have an agenda. We talk about our mission. Are we being, what things did we do this week that were helpful? Um, what things did we do that didn't really work out very well? What things can we do better? Where are we in our trajectory? Where, are we on target for where we're supposed to be in our, all of our different areas? Um, we bring up any concerns that we have, and talk through those. I think having a mutual respect for everyone is so helpful. I really try to uh, to make sure that everybody knows that I appreciate them all the time, and I really kind of stew on that. I'm like, am
Hmm.
I recognizing people enough? Am I appreciating people enough? Because I think we do have such a great team, and I'm so careful about making sure that they know um, how great they are. And I think I hired a great team, so I think I think that's the thing too, is putting emphasis on being so careful about who you hire, um, is a really important thing as well.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Now, when you think about being a seven-figure practice owner, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see?
Let's see, the biggest challenges. I think the biggest challenges, I think I've seen people bite off more than they can chew in the very beginning. And they get really overwhelmed and don't really know how to manage the day-to-day minutia. So I think um, helping people draw out a plan is really important. Figuring out, what is it that you want to accomplish. Do you want to hire 5 people this year? What is your goal for that? Why do you want to do that? Um, I had my business coach not too long ago. He said, I just opened up a new location in Wilmington, North Carolina, and that's 4 hours away from where we are here in Winston-Salem. And before I did that, he said, "So why do you want to do that?" And I'm
Mm,
like, "That's a really good question. Why do I want to do that?" So I think looking at um, you've got to look at things strategically. You can want to do a lot of different things, but you only have capacity um, to do so many. so, um, so really laying that all out, I think, is important.
mhm. Well, I want to go back to people that are maybe solo practitioners. Are there maybe 3 to 5 things that you can think of that maybe you did early on or you didn't do early on that you wish you had done? So just some advice for people that are listening to this saying, I don't know how I'm going to get there, but someday I want to be a seven-figure practice owner, just like Chantal. Like what
Mm.
would you recommend in regards to what they can do now as solo practitioners?
I think really being true to who you are and what your goals are, and what your niche is. For instance, do you want to start a group practice based on a certain niche? Do you specialize in trauma, and is that something? Do you want to bring on some other trauma informed clinicians, and that's your specialty? Um, just looking at, what is it that you really want to do uh, with your group practice, and build up a team. Have a lot of great supports. You cannot do it on your own. So I would think, or I would tell people, you know figure out what it is that you do well, and what is it that you can outsource to other people, or at least get support from other people on. That's something that I wish that I had done a little bit better in the beginning, and it would have helped me so much and be so much less
Mm,
stressed.
yeah. Well, the last question that I have is, if every private practitioner in the world were listening right now, what would you want them to know?
Every private practice clinician. Oh, I would think just staying authentic. I think we can get caught up in the finances of the business as you grow and scale. Uh, there's so much nitty gritty. There's so much to deal with. So much overwhelming information. Just staying true to who you are. Staying true to helping people. To being yourself. Um, to hiring the right people. Um, yeah, I think just being true, being honest, figuring out what you want, and yeah, how to get there authentically, I think is the
Mm.
most important part.
Well, if people want to connect with you, if they want to follow your work, where should we send them?
So I have a website. You can go to banyantreecounseling.com and click on my profile, Chantal Hayes, and from there you can find my private practice consulting link.
Wonderful. Well, Chantal, thank you so much for being on the Practice of the Practice podcast.
Thanks so much, Joe. I appreciate it.
Well, applications are open for the Seven Figure Practice Club. If you are interested in joining that or applying for it or just reading more, head on over to practiceofthepractice.com/club. Again, we are going to be doing so many awesome things together as a group. There's only going to be 12 of us. So we'll be really digging in together to help support, help come up with ideas, all sorts of things to help you continue to grow what you're doing in your private practice. And we couldn't do this sort of podcast without our amazing sponsors. Alma is our sponsor today, and Alma knows that building a private practice can be really challenging. Growing your caseload, navigating insurance, managing billing, all of that. That's why Alma helps clinicians have tools they need to build a thriving private practice. They even help you get credentialed within 45 days. You can learn more about building a thriving practice with Alma over at helloalma.com/Joe. That's hello, ALMA.com/Joe to get started. Thank you so much for letting me into your ears and into your brain. Have an amazing day. I'll talk to you soon. Special thanks to the band Silence is Sexy for that intro music, and this podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regard to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, the producers, the publishers, or guests are rendering legal, accounting, clinical, or other professional information. If you want a professional, you should find one.